In today's episode of the Pathmonk Presents podcast, I have a very interesting guest here with me today. I'm with Talya, and she's selling over as the Director of Product Marketing at Bloomfire. And Bloomfire is essentially a knowledge management platform to grow collective intelligence. And we want to really deep dive what that actually means, right? So you can head over to bloomfire.com, guys, to check it out at the first place. And today we want to really deep dive into centralized knowledge for the teams within your organizations. So Talya, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So maybe give us a quick overview. What is Bloomfire all about in your own words?
Of course. So Bloomfire is really about empowering companies and people who work there to do their best job. So, what we see often is that a company is only as smart and as strong as the people who are actually there. But what happens most of the time is that, people don't necessarily tap into all the knowledge that their coworkers have. And when someone either gets promoted or leave or retire, a lot of knowledge is lost. And what Bloomfire is trying to do is to solve for that and to really not only capture knowledge, because that's truly like the most precious resource that organizations have, but also enable people to tap into their coworkers' knowledge so they can do their best job.
Mm-hmm. And what types of organizations do you think would be well suited for a solution like Bloomfire? Is there a certain amount of, employees that I need to have? Do I need to be starting fresh? Can I bring my existing knowledge over? Like, what is a great state and a type of organization to, run on Bloomfire?
That's a great question. I know it sounds like a cliche, but we see at our customer base like a really large variety of customers from different sectors, industries, sizes. So to your question, do you need to start fresh, or can you, take an existing, like knowledge management system that you have on a SharePoint or a Google Drive and kind of move that? The answer is yes to both questions. A few things when you start with Bloomfire, a few things are going to happen. You're going to get a team who is going to help you to figure out like how you want people in your organization to interact with knowledge, to interact with each other. Do you want to have like some barriers? Do you want it to be like completely open? Do you want to have like some safeguards in place? That kind of really depends on the organization and the culture that they have. And then, creating the taxonomies that make sense for your organization. So it's like fully up to you to decide. It doesn't matter if you have something in place or no. You can, even if you have something in place, you can redefine that to something that, works better, or you can try something from scratch. And then if you need migration, then for sure, like that's also part of the process. There are, I would still say that, we typically see organizations from different sectors, different sizes. We find that, both more like smaller, more nimble, more flexible organizations love a platform like Bloomfire because like they're already there like mentally, and it just helps them to, make it all happen. But we've also seen lots of success with organizations who are traditionally more slow, heavily regulated, that need a lot of those, a lot of those restrictions sometimes. And, we've seen success in both. So I know it sounds like a cliche, but
no,
the world's your oyster with a Bloomfire.
It makes sense. It makes sense considering sort of the type of product that you're in, or market that you're in. What I'm curious though is then who within the organizations is typically taking the plunge. Who's sort of saying we need to move on something like Bloomfire? Is that is there really a position, something like a central knowledge base management? Is there specific managers from specific departments that say we are not organized as well as we should, and then they bring on Bloomfire? Like, how does that typically work?
Yeah. And the answer to that question is also it depends. So we do see the more, like the type of companies or type of champions who would reach out to us who are kind of coming from a more like an org-wide point of view. They can either sit in, like it can be like a CIO, CTO, HR, strategy. It really depends on the size of the company, on the type of the company, who owns knowledge. But we also do see a lot of more functional, folks from more functional areas, namely, I would say if I had to like group them all under one umbrella, I would say usually people who are managing customer facing teams.
Mm-hmm.
So that can be sales enablement, that can be sales and marketing, that can be support teams. And they are, daily where they need to either communicate what they have outwards towards their customers, or the other way around, kind of like grabbing everything that they're seeing from the market and making sure that the rest of the organization is aware of that. So we talk to a lot of those folks as well.
Got you. Now, how do they learn about Bloomfire? Like, what would you consider their journey to be like? Like, what's the channels in a way that they move through in order to learn about and getting started with Bloomfire?
So a lot of them, would hear about us from review sites, analysts, Gartner, Forrester types of avenues, things like that. We get like lots of direct references, but also I would say some of our main traffic is coming from people who are coming to us directly.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, if I had to kind of zoom out and think why that happens, I think, since we've been in the knowledge space for a while, it's something that at Bloomfire, we're truly passionate about that. Like
Mm-hmm.
we see the connection between, having someone able to be productive at their job, to deliver better customer employee experience. So we put a lot of really great content around knowledge and things like that. So I think that's also how many folks reach out to us, and that's how they find us as well.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, what role do you think the website plays? How do you, as a product marketing manager, think about the website, and how much in touch are you with the page in that particular role?
Oh, that's a great question. So the website is, because of our strategy and because we do get like a lot of those, like more direct traffic, the website is really important. We are actually in a process of, and this is something that we've never done before. So I'm, as product marketing, I'm especially excited about this. But really we're going to start to put more of the product at the center of the website. So we are in the process of creating some, some like brand new product pages, video material, all of these things, and really enhance that, because I think our website right now, talks really well about those thought leadership elements that we talked about before. Really gives like a plethora of, examples, case studies, tools, checklists, all these things. So, like you get like a lot of those things. But we also want to, empower people who are visiting our website, who are somewhere in the beginning maybe of their journey, to buy or to replace whatever they're using right now with something that makes a little more sense for them. Like we want to kind of continue that education on the product side as well, because, knowledge management is more than just a collection of features. For truly knowledge sharing, knowledge culture to work, you need like the technology for sure, but you also need the tools and the process behind it. So, and when we're, thinking about our roadmap, we're always thinking about these things as well. So, like more than just a feature, what, who will it serve? Like what's the point in everything that we do? So we're going to bring all of those into the website as well. So that's going to be something I am especially excited about to, that will be rolling out very soon.
Very good. And would you consider you as a product marketer to actually work very close on the website? Because we've had, people on the show, sometimes product marketers are very, they're very close with the product team and quite far away from, the ins and outs of what the marketing team is doing. Sometimes it's actually the other way around. How would you describe the role at Bloomfire?
That's why I love Bloomfire. So we're not a giant team, but I remember when I started, like our CEO, like he wanted to introduce me in the company meeting. So he was like, tell me like, how do I describe product marketing? Because that was the first hire that they had in that function.
Yeah.
So I told him, product marketer sits, between product sales, marketing, of course, and CS. And in Bloomfire, I would have to say that's pretty accurate. So of course, I get to collaborate with product team, but also work a ton with sales. I work a lot with our CS team as well. Again, like a part of it is not only because of like their intel and like their voice of the customer, but also because they're such a crucial part to the Bloomfire experience. And of course with the marketing team as well. So I'm pretty lucky. I consider myself as being pretty lucky product marketer.
So could you give us a feel, sort of what be sort of like types of projects? I mean, obviously we cannot capture it all, but just to give, a little bit of a glimpse, like what be sort of types of projects a product marketer would be working on at Bloomfire?
So at Bloomfire, anything from, as we just, we talked about like the product section on the website and product videos, explainer videos, even a role in like branding a little bit. I'm not leading that, not at all, but in terms of positioning, messaging, I kind of like I look at the market. So it's a very, like it's my job to look at the market and then go back to the marketing team and to the product team and like tell them what I hear, what I see. Competitive as well. That's a huge part, a huge part of that. And that kind of like, again, that has impact on marketing, because do we want to produce landing pages around specific, like competitive angles, even like SEO. So there's that involvement in that. And then of course with the sales team, because you want to make sure that they're really well trained, they have their talk tracks, they know, how, like if this comes up, if this competitor comes up in a conversation, what do you do? What do you say? And with the product as well. Another area would be win-loss analysis. She's one of my favorite things. I'm so glad that we do that at Bloomfire. And again, like this is something that has impact. Like if you take the win-loss analysis and think about like the next steps, it can have impact on, all areas of the business.
That makes a lot of sense. We actually just had recently, a guest on the show who was actually going very much in depth into the win and loss analysis. So, yep, seems more and more teams should be actually picking that up. Very cool. As we slowly moving towards the end of the interview, I would love to, throw some rapid fire questions at you to get to know you and your journey a little bit better. Are you ready for those?
Let's do it.
Very cool. What's the last book you read or the last podcast you listened to?
Oh, okay. So wait, are we talking like work related, like business related or not?
Whatever comes to mind, whatever comes to mind.
So my last, I would say like work related book was obviously Awesome by April Unford. Love that book. Easy read, but is like very, very thought provoking. Very validating also. She's talking about she has some really great points there. Highly recommend anyone who's like in that space to read that book. Excellent book.
What's one single thing that your company is focused on the most at the moment?
That's a big question. I think, we are really trying to make sure that people understand what knowledge management can be and can do for you. I think a lot of people have these ideas about it because, we've talked about like a little bit about this before we started recording. Like if you've been at a big company and someone says knowledge management, you think about a SharePoint. And we're kind of trying to, I would say like even like a little like redefine this space, and it's a crowded space and it's getting more crowded. And to really make it about, how as an organization you can, really take two things and make them worth like even more than that. How 1 + 1 can equal 3. How can you make people be more fulfilled in what they do, and also capture that, those gains that come from that attitude.
Mm-hmm. Now, if you would have a magic stick, right? You have a magic wand. You can basically do whatever you want. What's the one thing that you would fix for your role as a product marketer?
Oh, wow. That's a huge question. I would add more time to my day if I had a magic wand, but not to read emails or do anything like that. If I could spend, I think, it's so, especially at a role like product marketing, when you're truly, sit like between so many different functions, getting that time with people from not necessarily people you work with daily, from different areas of the business, super important. Like if I could, add like 10 hours to my week, I would, dedicate them all just to have more of those conversations. I think, like we're so focused on the market and positioning and competitors and like all these things and like strategy and all of that. But we don't spend enough time with our internal teams to see like what they hear, what they pick up, what they learn. And I think, like with time, if you really have like all those data points, you can like really find trends, really interesting trends with timing, and get some new ideas as well.
That sounds very helpful, I would say. Very last question. Now, if we do a little bit of time travel and we go back to the days of Tel Aviv University, you even like all the way back, even your very first, educational stop, basically, you're heading out of formal education at this point. What's the one advice you would give yourself for that journey?
Love that question. That was a long time ago. I would say, make time to people, or people be open for feedback. Change is good. But also I would say probably like the most important thing that I would encourage anyone to do, even if they just graduated from, undergrad, speak up. Don't be too self-conscious. Like awareness is great and everything, but truly, like there are no dumb questions. If you got the job, people want to hear what you think. And just just go for it. Just go for it. Like be engaged, participate, be coachable. Just be present, give it your all. Don't hold back.
Awesome. Talya, I really appreciate it. You took the time with us today to be a guest on Pathmark Presents. I want to give you the very last word. If somebody would be forgetting all that we discussed about Bloomfire today, what's the one thing that they should remember?
Well, Bloomfire is truly about connecting people with one another, and to empower them to do their best job, to be fulfilled, to have fun while they're doing it, but also, to enable their organization where they work some competitive advantage. Like if you're fast, if you're dynamic, if you can adapt to change quickly, you're better than most of your competitors. So
Thanks a lot for being a guest on Pathmark Presents.
Thank you so much for having me.